What's up Gala gamers, welcome back to another Champions Arena video. Today it's all about Wombo combos. What that means is when you have selective champions and put them together in your team, their skills combo so well that it basically destroys and obliterates the enemy team. So let's get to it. So here we are in Champions Arena and the game has been out for several weeks, and I've fought a variety of different champion combinations in the campaign, in the Mayhem, Tower of Trials and Arena as well. And here are some of my favorites that I have fought or that I have thought of by myself. Now before we move on to the first team combo, you know what to do. You want to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button if you're enjoying my content so far. So the first combo is going to be two epic champions which are fairly obtainable, because if you go to the shop right here, the combo that we're going to be looking at is Ifrit and Roxanne. You can get both of these champions if you have 160 Stole Stones. You can basically exchange them here, but I don't have enough so I can't do that. So let's head over to the champion tab, go to book, and we'll start off with Roxanne. So here we are on Roxanne's character page, and you want to head over to skills, and the three skills that you're going to be paying attention to is her second skill, her third skill, and her passive. So we'll start with the passive. The passive is Dragon Rune, creates one Dragon Rune when Roxanne's turn begins and when an ally, excluding herself, deals critical damage. Now these runes are basically the currency for her to use her abilities. So the second ability is Dragonfire Dive, deals damage to 95% of attack to all enemies, and if you card match it gets crit rate up. The crit rate is 30% as it's shown here, but the thing you want to be doing is dragon form. So transforms into a dragon form. The duration is proportionate to the number of dragon rune counts, and also grants 2 counts of direct hit. And if you card match, it transforms after gaining 2 counts of dragon rune. So once you have 2 counts of dragon rune, you want to be using the third skill, and then you want to transform into this form, which looks bloody brilliant. This is a dragon form, and as you can see, the first 3 skills are pretty much the same. The first skill, second skill, and third skill all are dragon breath. Automatically used every turn, deals damage proportion to 110% of the attack to all enemies, and deals damage over time to the targets for 2 turns. Now her passive is Dragonfire, transforms Roxanne automatically, attacks all enemies at the beginning of every turn, consumes a dragon rune. Transformation is cancelled upon consuming all stacks of dragon rune. When attacking, deals 1-2 damage over time to the targets. Now this wording is a bit confusing. Now I'm guessing it deals 2 stacks of damage over time for every 2 buffs effects applied to Roxanne. So what damage over time is basically that when the enemies start their turn, they take a little bit of damage at the start of their turn, and this is what's going to pair really well with Ifrit. So if we go back and then we find the Ifrit, which is here, you have skills, and Ifrit's passive is Blazing Flames. If Ifrit attacks a target with active damage over time effect, she deals the damage over time effect to 1 random enemy for 2 turns and increases defense by 4% for every active damage time effect on the enemies. So you can see they're already pairing really well with the dragon form of Roxanne because she deals damage over time effects. But the one combo that we're looking forward to is Inferno. Deals damage to 110% to all enemies. Card match deals an extra 45 damage to targets with active damage over time effect, removing all damage over time effects and dealing the damage of the remaining ticks all at once. So basically the combo is you get Roxanne into dragon form, use her damage over time effect, and then you get Ifrit to do his third skill, which is Inferno, which basically deals more damage and procs all the damage over time effects at one time. And since they are a red and a yellow, you're not fighting over the card harmonies, so you can use the spells such as like Growth and Trickster to make sure you have both of them active by turn 2 or 3, and you can obliterate the enemy team as long as these 2 champions are alive. Now we move on to the second combo, and the second combo is about CC and control. We go over to Vera, which is a legendary champion. Her skills that you need to be paying attention to is her passive. Vera will start the battle with 1 ice crystal and inflict speed down on the enemy that has attacked her for 2 turns. Now this speed down is very important because it combos really well with her third skill. Her third skill is called Crystal Blizzard, and it deals damage to 100% of the attack to all enemies. If you card match, has a 40% chance to freeze the target for 1 turn. If the target is under speed down status, the effect is granted 100% of the time. So basically, if anybody hits Vera, they'll get a speed down. When you use your third skill card match, it will guarantee freeze the enemy team. So she can guarantee freeze the whole enemy team if you have a speed down status on all of them. Now this is where the other champion comes into play. The first recommended champion is called Devi and Stan. Now you only need Devi and Stan's third skill, which is called Burst Fire. Deals damage 100% of attack to all enemies and inflicts speed down for 2 turns. If you card match, it ignores the target's resistances for every stack of overcharge, which is a passive, but you just need this. You don't even have to card match, it guarantees on the third skill 2 turns speed down. So you basically use Devi and Stan first, and then you use Vera's third skill, which is the Crystal Blizzard, and you guarantee freeze the whole enemy team for 1 turn. Now you can keep this going as many times as you have yellow cards and blue cards. So if you want to use Growth, if you want to use Trickster to make sure you always have those 3-star yellow and blue cards, then you can basically CC and AoE damage the enemy team till they die. Like, I've been frozen several times by Vera, and she is annoying and champion to fight. If she is in your team, she is a great asset. So the first 2 teams were damage over time AoE, and the second team was CC AoE. Now we're going to move on to pure damage AoE, and the champion at the center of that is Zafina. Zafina is one of the 3 new champions released that has an increased pull chance currently in the summonings. Her skills are amazing. So basically a passive is Dark Summon. Zafina summons 4 minions at the start of the battle. Attack is increased by 5% for each minion summoned. She can have up to 6, so you can get a 30% boost in damage already, as long as you know how to micromanage the minions. Now her first attack deals damage and increases damage, so you don't want to worry about that. But the 2 skills that you need to be paying attention to is her second skill, which is Minion Explosion, and her third skill, which is Dark Curtain. Her second skill deals damage to 100% of attack to all enemies and loses 1 summoned minion. If you card match, increases damage by 10% per summoned minion. If there are 3 or more summoned minions, inflicts one of the following debuffs on the target: defense down, speed down, or take more damage. So basically, you're dealing a shit ton of damage and you're giving them a debuff. Now the ones you want to aim for is defense down or take more damage, because they'll be taking 30% more damage, or their defense is down by 35%. You'll start the turn with 4 minions due to her passive, so if you use this right away, you're guaranteed to inflict one of these status effects. Now if you move on to a third skill, deals damage to 110% of all attack to enemies. So basically a second and third skill is guaranteed AoE damage to all of the enemy champions. So she has really good AoE. Now if you card match, damage is increased by 20% for every minion, reduces the duration of the target's buff by 1 turn, gains the same number of minions as the number of buffs removed. So if the enemy team has buffs and you remove it, if it's on 1 turn, because it reduces it by 1 turn, you will gain a minion. That minion basically powers up your spells and you can deal a shit ton more damage. Since you start the turn with 4 minions, if you manage to Dark Curtain on the first turn, you get an 80% buff, or if you use the second skill, you're guaranteed to do a debuff. So Zafina is the main one for the third team, and you compare her well with these 2 champions. You compare her well with Varus, because Varus is passive. At the start of the turn, it grants resistance down. Now this pairs well with Zafina's second skill, because resistance down basically guarantees that your debuffs are going to hit. And his third skill is Sword of Doom, which deals 100% of max damage to all enemies, and if you card a match, has a 40% chance to taunt a target. So he is more of a tanky debuffer that pairs well with your Zafina's debuffs and AoE damage. The one I would go for if you're planning to buy the champions of Zafina, you want to get Dementius. The reason you want to get Dementius is because both his second and third skills are AoE damage just like Zafina's, and it has a fairly good synergy with Zafina. So if you go to Dimension Slash, deals damage to 95% of attack to all enemies. This attack is more effective against fewer targets, but if you card match before attacking, inflicts resistance down on the target by 30%. So you're inflicting resistance down, which guarantees your Zafina's debuffs are going to land. And then if you go to the third skill, which is Black Hole, deals damage to 100% of attack to all enemies. The attack is more effective against fewer enemies. Damage proportion is increased by 130% if he has 5 stacks of Dimensional Power, ignores 50% of the target's defense. Now Dimensional Power is the passive of Dementius, gains 1 Dimensional Power every time a debuff is inflicted on a enemy. So basically you pair Dementius with Zafina and you're guaranteed to get a load of stacks, because they're gonna be inflicting loads of debuffs. He's gonna be inflicting resistance down with his second skill, and Zafina is going to be inflicting any one of these debuffs. So if you combo both of them well, you can do insane damage, pure raw damage. The only downside about this combo is both of them are red champions, And also Varus is a red champion, so this one you require to manage your cards a bit more to make sure both of the skills are available one after another. But if you can get 2 red cards in one of your turn sequences, you're guaranteed to destroy the whole enemy team with just these 2 champions. Now finally, let's move on to the 4th team that I'm still trying to work on, but I think I've got the basic outline for it. And the champion that is the baseline for this is going to be Kenneth. And the reason you want Kenneth is for his 3rd skill, which is called Lucky Draw. This is going to be a crit team, and Kenneth is all about crit rate up, crit power up, or both. You want to be aiming for the hearts or the 7s when you draw his skill, and that gives you 30% crit rate or 60% crit power, and if you card match, increases the turn gauge of all allies by 20%. So you either want these 2, and when you do that, it will give your allies the buff of what it says here. And the champions you want to pair with this, the first one we're going to go over is Kage. The reason you want to pair Kage with Kenneth is because of his 3rd skill, Shadow Bite. Deals damage 200% of attack to an enemy, but if you card match, crit rate is multiplied by 2, so if you have Kenneth's buff already active, it's going to be insane because you're guaranteed to crit, and landing a crit attack has a 70% chance of gaining an extra turn. So you're basically making sure Kage kills the enemy and give him another turn to kill another enemy. Now these 2 are the main for that build, but you can also pair her with Selena, because Selena is also a crit champion based on her passive and her 3rd skill. She does give herself crit rate up on her 2nd skill, but ideally you want to be firing the 3rd skill at all times. And you can also pair her with Roxanne, because Roxanne also gains a benefit on her passive. Whenever an ally excluding her deals critical damage, she will get a active dragon rune. So you can combo this well with having 1 AoE champion, which is Roxanne, and having 2 single target champions to guarantee you take out their damage dealer and just AoE them down with Roxanne. Now you can also add this guy into the team for the crit rate build, but his skills are okay. I would rather have a support instead of him, but if you want to go pure damage, you can add him, because if an attack doesn't crit, the crit rate for the next attack is increased by 30%. If the attack does crit, the turn gauge is increased by 10%. So it's not a bad passive, but I would prefer to either buff Kage or Selena and use Kenneth to provide the extra like crit power buffs and the crit rate up buffs, and then you can get another support that increases turn gauge or increases the attack, such as Sana. You can pair them well with Sana, because Sana's 3rd skill gives attack up and a damage boost. So you're basically guaranteed to kill 1 single target with the crit rate and damage boost build. But this is heavily reliant on level 3 cards, so you can pair her with, say, a Justina or a Zyma or a Zoe, basically any other support that in their 2nd skill gives increased attack and turn gauge. I like Justina because Justina also gives assist on her 2nd skill and grants attack up. You can also go a defensive route if you don't want to go pure damage. You can get a tank that is able to taunt or stun to make sure your damage dealers stay alive, and you guarantee kill off the enemy team 1 by 1. Now there are several other champions you can put in any of these. For example, Saphir is really good single target and AoE damage, pairs well with the crit rate and buffing build, because his passive, his attacks are guaranteed to hit as long as he has active buff, and if you have Kenneth on your team, you're guaranteed an active buff. The turn gauge is increased by 20% and has a 50% chance to gain 1 stack of direct hit. Saphir is overall one of the best legendaries in my opinion, because he's got both single target damage and self buffing and AoE damage, and his passive combos well with majority of his skills. Another good champion is Violet. Violet gives permanent debuffs as long as she is alive on the field, and she deals a good amount of damage with her 3rd skill and can inflict defense down and damage reduction with her 2nd skill. She can also gain mana on her 1st skill. I do have to stick by what I said, like most legendaries are useful, most of them have insane skills if paired right with some of the other champions, even with like epic or rare champions. So those were the 3 to 4 teams that I have been testing and been theory crafting and what would be good for Wombo combos. Now, if you do plan to summon the first team, which is Ifrit and Roxanne, make sure you head over to Best Summons, because we currently have one of the highest level altars in the game, which is altar level 9. And what that does is, if you go to normal summon, it gives you a champion chance up. So both Roxanne and Ifrit are in this pool. If we check the summoning chances, you have a 0.383% chance to summon an Ifrit compared to some of the other picks which go to 0.0067. So the chance is a lot higher But with normal pools, you are guaranteed to get soul stones rather than champions. But if it is a champion, but the chance up gives you a good opportunity to get both of these champions. Now, if you don't want to do it the gambler's way, you can do it the other way, which is going to the trade market and then buying the soul stones and then heading over to the shop. You can buy them for 160 each, as I said at the start of the video. If you also want Barbara, you can buy her 120 soul stones and get her as the support. That is pretty much for the video about Wombo combos in Champions Arena. Hopefully you found your combo you're interested in and that you're aiming to get. I really like the Ifrit and Roxanne combo, but the other combos with legendaries are amazing, but getting legendaries can be expensive if you're buying them off OpenSea or if you're trying to pull them. I've known people that have used like 300k to 500k gems and have not pulled a legendary, and I've seen a guy pull legendary with his 23 summoning tickets. The balance, it's basically luck of the draw. You just need to play to RNG Jesus if you want to get lucky. But if I could, I would either go with the Zafina Dimentus or the Vera Devistan combo. As always, guys, don't forget to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell because it's free and it's the easiest way to stay updated with all of my content. Head over to Twitter if you want to have daily announcements about the Gala and Web3 gaming ecosystems, and head over to my Discord to just hang out. If you just started Champions Arena and want some other guides or other videos, then make sure you check the cards description up here. They should be like in a little icon that's floating about. And as always, I'll see you in the next Web3 gaming video.